For if it's a peaceful protest.
Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. It's peaceful. It's peaceful. All right, platoon. One formation. Move.
What is all this for if it's a peaceful protest? What is all this for if it's a peaceful protest?
Behind the line, please, guys. Behind the line.
Absolutely unnecessary.
But the mayor, hold on, but the mayor requested, so it's okay. Excuse me. This ain't private, this public. This is in front of the police officer's house. This is at 7517 17th Street in Oakdale, Minnesota, in front of the actual officer's address that killed the police officer.
Why are you doing? I will tell you right fucking now what we're doing. And that is the fact that my neighbors, my community, have been...
It's a fact.
It takes time for action to happen. How do you feel about standing on the names of all the dead people? Fuck you! Look at how out of shape they are!
Good morning, peeps, and I'm here to bring you some breaking information, some breaking news of the overnight developments in Minneapolis concerning the protest, what has now become riots, what has now turned violent in the George Floyd case. It's getting hot. It's getting real hot. And as a matter of fact, you have protests and you have the verge of riots everywhere. In LA, they have started protesting, and they have actually shut down one of the expressways, one of the freeways in LA. There's some stuff going on in Houston, and because George was from Houston, so there's some stuff going on in Houston, and there's also some heated stuff going on in the Washington D.C. area, and around the country. These protests are starting. They're starting these protests, and most of them are starting fairly peaceful, but based on people's emotions and based on the fact that black folks are just tired, they're not staying that way. But anyway, it says I'm reading from Twin City pioneerpress.com, well, twincities.com. Meanwhile, a rally outside the Oakdale home of Derek Chauvin also drew nearly 200 protesters from across the Twin Cities. An officer told protesters that Chauvin was not there, and no one answered when an Associated Press reporter knocked on the door. Red cans of paint were earlier spilled on his driveway, and someone wrote, "A murderer lives here," in chalk in the street in front of the house. Among the protesters in Oakdale was a 25-year-old Dahlia Dashi of St. Paul, who said Chauvin must be arrested and prosecuted for murder in Floyd's death. "We want justice. justice, Dashi said. People have been arrested for less. There's no reason why he shouldn't be in jail right now. The protesters faced off against a line of helmeted officers from the Washington County Mobile Field Force who prevented the protesters from moving deeper into the neighborhood. The demonstration remained peaceful as of 9 p.m. last night. We understand we're in a residential neighborhood, Doshi said. We just want people to know who lives here. In California, like I said, they're doing it in LA. Hundreds of people protesting Floyd's death blocked a Los Angeles freeway and shattered windows of California Highway Patrol cruisers on Wednesday. So they did that yesterday afternoon. Yesterday afternoon, LA got riled up. And what they're saying from, is it this article? And there is one dead and there's one in custody. So let me read to you about that. About 9:25 p.m., Minneapolis police officers responding to a report of a stabbing found a man lying on the sidewalk in grave condition at Bloomington Avenue and Lake Street, about a mile west of the 3rd Precinct. The officers provided first aid and paramedics took the wounded man to Hennepin County Medical Center, where he was pronounced dead. Minneapolis police spokesman John Elder said his injury was later determined to be a gunshot wound. Police have one person in custody in connection with the homicide. Elder did not directly link the incident to the protest and said the shooting was under investigation. He said there had been no other reports of serious injuries to officers or to protesters, except for the woman that got hit in the head the night before. The woman that got hit in the head with the rubber bullet, and I think I heard something. I heard a report about a man, a fella that had also been hit with a rubber bullet. So it's heating up out there. It's definitely heating up out there. And I'm gonna read to you in an article in a few minutes. The AutoZone store has been burnt down. There was a building under construction that was caught on fire. There were a lot of businesses, they say, on this Lake Street. And Lake Street apparently is a business district, and it was headed more towards uptown. A lot of those businesses were vandalized, and those small fires were started in those businesses. So yeah, it's a lot going on. It's a whole lot going on. But what really, really bothers me is that they have so many people out in force protecting this man's house. So instead of them being where they needed to be, in the city, protecting those businesses, or maybe protect real protesters, because you have to remember at times like this, they send in agents, they send in people to pretend to be protesters, and these people actually start these fires, and they actually start this looting and all of this kind of stuff, and they're not actually people from that city. A lot of times they are people that they bring in from the outside to make the protesters look bad. Right? So, but what really bothers me is that they have all of these people there to protect this man that everybody in the world has seen kill a man in cold blood. And I've been watching, some videos, and I've been watching some stuff on social media, and a lot of people from overseas are reacting to this. A lot of people from the UK and other places in Europe and overseas are reacting to this, and they're telling the United States that the world is watching. The world is watching how the United States handles this case. Okay, the mayor, because of the looting and the burning and all that, the mayor has asked that the National Guard be brought in, and there were National Guard that were brought in to surround the 3rd Precinct, because they had literally tore that thing up. and they would think, I guess they thought that maybe they might set it on fire as well. So National Guard was brought in to kind of to surround this 3rd precinct to keep the protesters or the rioters or whatever from getting in there, you know, and there being a real bad clash between the protesters and the police. So some National Guard have been out. Some police officers from other places were brought in to kind of help the firefighters and kind of protect the firefighters and all of that as they went out to try to see about these various little fires that had been started and all of that. But that construction site, it was a blaze. It was a show enough blaze. But like I said, you have to remember, they bring people in from the outside to, you know, to start these little fires, you know what I'm saying, and to actually start the rioting and to actually start the looting. They bring people in from the outside to do that, to make the protesters look bad and to try to smear the whole purpose behind the protest. Okay? Just remember that. But if you Google some of the pictures and some of the videos and some of the scenes and all of that from the protesting, you'll see that most of the people doing the looting are actually white people and Hispanics. There are some black people, but most of them are white folks and Hispanics that are actually doing the looting. You can see them coming out of the stores and all of that kind of stuff. Now, they might not show you too many of them. They might focus more on the black people. But if you pay attention, you'll see that this whole protest, this whole setup was diverse from the very beginning. As a matter of fact, if you look at it in most of the pictures, you'll see more non-black people, more non-foundational black Americans than you will black people. But again, the reason why these folks couldn't be where they needed to be to take care of the city was because they were over here protecting this man that killed another human being in cold blood, did it on the camera with no emotion, no care. I mean, it wasn't human. Watching him do what he did, you weren't watching a human being. You were watching something that's beyond human. So that's where they were. Now, I want to read a little bit of this to you from the Tribune. And this is coming from the Star Tribune, and of course all of these articles will be linked in the description box. This talks about, it says about 50 protesters stood on the boulevard in front of Freeman's home. And that's, if I'm not mistaken, I think his name is Mike Freeman. That's the county attorney that the Mayor Fry was talking to yesterday in his press conference when he's talking to this man and he's telling him that they need to bring charges. They need to file charges against this Derek Chauvin man as soon as possible. So the protesters are actually at his house as well. So they are actually protesting at his house as well. About 50 protesters stood on the boulevard in front of Freeman's home, chanting and shouting demands for Chauvin, the police officer seen in a bystander's video with his knee on the neck of the dying Floyd, to be charged with murder. They need to go to jail, all 4 cops, because they decided to do nothing with an innocent black man. They decided to do nothing when an innocent black man was being murdered about a $20 counterfeit bill, said Erica Cheek, who drove up from Charles City, Iowa to attend Wednesday's protest. So see, you got folks coming in from everywhere. You got folks coming in from everywhere participating in these protests. So it would be very, very hard to say that everything that's going on, all these fires that's getting started, all this looting, all this vandalism, and all of this kind of stuff is coming strictly from nobody but the citizens of Minneapolis. Because you got folks coming in from everywhere to participate in this. They should have been in jail 10 minutes after it happened, added Katie Cummings Becko of St. Paul, One of Freeman's neighbors, Mark Bartlett, watched the demonstration unfold from his front lawn. It's a horrible embarrassment for Minneapolis, and I'm sure that Freeman is horrified also. I'm not sure if he would be able to act on the information to file charges yet, Bartlett said. If it was anybody else, they would be in jail, said Ashley Bowles, a mother of 5 who joined the crowd in Oakdale. This is at the at Chauvin's house. The protest, she said, means everything to me. For my children, this is their sad reality of life. The only way this is going to change is if people stand up. No one answered the front door of the house, believed to be Chauvin's, when a protester knocked, and there was no car parked in the driveway. But Bowles said she saw someone turning off lights and moving window curtains at the residence on Tuesday night. Yes, she said, Chauvin was at home. A neighbor who asked not to be identified said Chauvin hasn't been at the house lately because it was under renovation, pointing to a bag of construction debris in the driveway. The protesters first showed up in the Oakdale neighborhood on Tuesday, when the Washington County Mobile Field Force was deployed to disperse a large gathering there for the further protection of the neighborhood. In Duluth, more protests. Two and a half hours north of Minnesota, about 100 people gathered in a busy intersection to express anger over Floyd's death. If you're anywhere in Minnesota, you should be mad about this. You should be trying to protest, said Jayla Willis, an 18-year-old from Duluth. This isn't the first time this has happened. The Duluth protest was organized by two Hold on. I lost my place, y'all. Hold on. The Duluth protest was organized by 2 college students on Facebook. What started as a small group waving signs on the corner of London Road and 21st Avenue turned into a march that drew a dozen police cars, which blocked off traffic as the group trudged a few blocks west. Protesters chanted and waved signs that said "Justice for George" and "Prosecute the police." They elicited honks of support from passerbys, as well as middle fingers and swear words. At one point, before squad cars arrived, a man drove a few feet with a protester on his window because she refused to get out of his way. It's been really overwhelming, said Aurora Moon, one of the 19-year-old organizers, who said she wasn't expecting the event to evolve like it did. She, like many others at the protest, called for the prosecution of the now fired officer who knelt on Floyd's neck. We want them to know Duluth is watching them, and we won't be silent. So, these are protests going on everywhere. And this article is a little old. This article was May 28th. Well, that's today. They must have updated it. Yeah, it was updated. But so everybody is protesting. There are protests going on everywhere. They're calling for all the cities and everything in Minnesota to protest. Like I said, we got the protests in LA. Of course, we knew LA was going to turn up. And then there are protests all over the country. But again, the thing that just is so striking is that, and of course, he's a police officer. He's a part of that that fraternity. You know, he's a part of that whole group. But the fact that they got all of these officers, and I think they said it was like over 200 and some of them out there protecting. Well, they say they're protecting the neighborhood. No, they're not protecting the neighborhood. They're protecting him, because they don't know who's coming, what's coming, or whatever the case may be. But I found this article in Essence magazine to be real interesting. And I was surprised to hear something like this coming out of Essence magazine, because Essence magazine, Jet, BET, you know, all the stuff that used to be black owned and operated and all of that. And it was really all about black empowerment, black enterprise, black business enterprise, and all of these magazines and publications and all of that that used to be black. Okay, well now they're run, they're owned and operated by white folks. So it really surprised me that Essence would come out this strong. But they came out real strong, and I want to read this to you. Hold on a minute. Because the Essence site is kind of crazy with their the way their thing is set up. Okay. Hold on. It's home and it's op-ed. That's all it says. Burn it all down. After the death of George Floyd, Minneapolis is burning. But this is what happens when black people have to deal with injustice and death. And it has a picture here of this big, huge apartment building that was under construction burning. And this is by Yesha Callahan. Today, May 28th. Over the last several weeks, we've seen armed white protesters confront police. We've seen them bombard a Capitol building dressed in fatigues and holding sawed-off shotguns and rifles. Not because of the government's failed response over the coronavirus, but because they wanted to open their states back up and defy the stay-at-home orders designed to keep them safe. This is what's important to them, no matter how many people across the country have died. I'm just reading what she's saying. Over the last several weeks, we've seen the faces and hashtags of black people who were unjustly killed by those who were supposed to protect and serve, and white racists. And when police departments hire white racists, well, we all know how that story goes. From Breonna Taylor to Ahmaud Arbery and now George Floyd. A national pandemic can't even stop white people from killing us. So somebody just let her have her way. You know what I'm saying? Somebody just let her have her way and just let her get it all off her chest. So what do we do when we're fed up? What do you do when you're fed up with an unjust system? Hold on. Told you I don't do real good with this. When the boiling point has reached Fahrenheit levels that don't even exist, you use the heat to burn it all down. Rioting and protests are nothing new in America. From white people rioting during the Boston Tea Party and looting a whole ship to black people having to constantly protest and riot every time a black person is killed. This is what America was built on. What have peaceful protests taught us? What have they accomplished? When Martin Luther King Jr. walked across that bridge in Selma during a peaceful protest, I'm sure he didn't expect his life to end in a violent haze of bullets. There will be some watching the protest and looting in Minneapolis in disgust, and that's their prerogative. Be disgusted, but be disgusted about the fact that millions of people witnessed George Floyd's senseless murder at the knee of former police officer Derek Chauvin, as his comrades looked on. Be disgusted that Floyd's death was witnessed by a little girl who will forever be scared or be scarred. scared and scarred actually. Be disgusted that instead of protecting protesters, armed police officers are currently protecting Derek Chauvin's house. Be disgusted that in 2020, black people are still disenfranchised in the United States. Until these things disgust you, we riot, we protest, and do whatever it takes to get your attention, including burning it all down. I thought that was real interesting. I thought she worded that perfectly. I thought she worded that very perfectly. Now, this ain't gonna be long. I just wanted to bring you, the updates. I just wanted you to bring you the breaking news about all the fires and about the fact that somebody had got shot. Hold on a minute. Let me see. It's in here somewhere where they talk about who this guy was. I'm going back to this Star Tribune story. It says that a 59-year-old man was booked into the Hennepin County Jail on suspicion of the pawn shop shooting, according to online jail records. The facts of what led up to the shooting are still being sorted out. We are truly in the infancy of this investigation, Elder said. Another shooting happened in the 2600 block of Longfellow Avenue, and a victim from a third shooting walked into the emergency room at HCMC, according to Scanner Traffic. The shootings continued a rash of gun violence across the city even before Floyd's killing. Again, it says the National Guard was ordered to the 3rd Precinct Police Station to relieve Minneapolis police officers as demonstrators encircled the precinct, chanting loudly and carrying banners demanding justice for Floyd. St. Paul Police and the State Patrol were also on hand. Now, hold on a minute. It was something else that I wanted to tell y'all. I read in one of these articles that actual business owners, because they realized that it was not going to be wise for them to stay in their businesses, and they actually started shutting their businesses down early. I read in one of these articles that they were actually taking spray paint and all of this kind of stuff and writing minority-owned businesses on the outside of their businesses, and those businesses were not touched. Those businesses were not looted. They were not burnt. They were not broken into. They appeared to not be touched. The businesses that had minority owned put on the front of the business. Hold on, let me see if I can find that so I can read that to you. Looters who declined to be identified by their full names told the Star Tribune that they didn't care whether people agreed with their methods. We have to get their attention somehow, one man said as he spray painted the sidewalk with obscenities. Okay, this might not be the one. It must be this other one. But if I can't find it, it's in one of these articles that'll be linked in the description box. But I just wanted to read it to you. Yeah, some businesses displaying spray painted minority owned signs appear to have been spared. So they were not attacking anything that said minority owned. They didn't touch it. They didn't loot it. They didn't vandalize it. They didn't set it on fire. They didn't touch it. Well, at least that's what's being reported, that they didn't touch these businesses. So that's what's happening. That's what's going on in Minneapolis right now. We still, as of right now, still no charges have been filed. If anything, they out there protecting the man. They got police out there protecting the man, talking about they protecting the neighborhood. No, they protecting him. But there's one more thing that I want you to hear, and I'm gonna close at this. I want everybody to be safe. I want everybody to get this information, get down in this description box, read these articles, check out these videos and these links, and just be prepared. Be prepared. Foundational Black people, again, we can't stress enough, exercise your Second Amendment rights. And, you know, everybody just keep your eyes and your ears open. And, you know, all I can say is they better hurry up and arrest them folks. That's all I can say, is they better hurry up and arrest them folks. But that's the breaking news. According to the article that I just read, there were actually 3 people. There were actually 3 shootings last night. Were these tied into the riots and the protesting? I don't know. Like I said, because they bring other people in and they do all kind of trifling stuff behind closed doors and all of this kind of stuff, so it can be blamed on the protests and the protesters. So there's really no way of knowing. But just understand that these protests are breaking out all over the country. All over the country, these protests are breaking out. And the longer people have to wait to see these folks arrested and to feel like some kind of justice is being done, the worse it's going to get. So be prepared, be ready, be on guard, keep your head on swivel, and pay attention. Don't miss anything that's going on around you, and sit down and have conversations with your family, with your friends. You know what I'm saying? If you got sons and daughters that drive, that move around on their own and all of that, you know, make sure that they're prepared. Make sure that they know what's going on. Make sure that they know what to look out for. Because it's not heating up, it's already burning up. Okay? So, of course, like the video. Please share the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Hit that bell notification so that you can be notified. And again, get down in that description box. Leave your comments for me. And hopefully in the next couple of days, I'll bring you more information as far as what's going on with this whole pandemic thing, because there's some new developments as far as that's concerned too. Because see, I had a subscriber. Let me say this right quick. I had a subscriber, and she said something that I touched on in the last video, is that maybe all of this killing right now and all of these videos coming out and all of this is being used as a distraction. And I was like, you know, maybe it's being used as a distraction to distract us, you know, from the Ahmaud Arbery case and from Breonna Taylor and all of that. And she even expanded it a little bit and said maybe, just maybe, it's a distraction to get us to not focusing on all of this stuff that surrounded this so-called pandemic. But just like I told her, we're not that stupid anymore. We're not that gullible anymore. You understand what I'm saying? And some of us can concentrate on more than one or two things at a time. So just be looking for an update as far as this whole pandemic is concerned and all of these things that are being said and all of that. Again, like I said, watch out for these Democrats. Watch out for these Democrats that are coming out with all of these words like they're so concerned, and calling for all of these investigations and all of this kind of stuff. They will try to use this to score brownie points with black folks. But you have to remember, they are the ones that have championed so many laws and caused so many laws to be put on the books that targeted black people. And that brought us to this place. Don't fall into that trap where everybody's going to try to blame Trump and say that it's because Trump is a racist and the white supremacists have gotten bolder because of Trump. No, we've been going through this. We've been going through this for the last 400 and some years. We've been going through just what we're going through right now. The only difference is now we can see it instantly because it can be videotaped. Because of camera phones and because of social media, we are now seeing it instantly. It can happen 1 minute and 10 minutes later. We can see it all over social media. That's the only difference. But this is not brand new for us. This is happening to us in the United States of America. So this is not new. Now, is racism and all of this anti-black hatred a little bit more out there now than it was maybe 10, 15 years ago? It may be. But it's not new. And you have to remember all the black people that died, all the unarmed black people that died at the hands of white folks and at the hands of these race soldiers and police officers and all of that during the Obama administration. When Obama had a black DOJ and he had a black U.S. Attorney General, Eric Holder, and nothing was done. Instead of him doing something about all the killing of black folks, he signed Blue Lives Matter legislation. So don't let the Democrats fool you into believing that they're concerned. If they're concerned, they wouldn't be talking. They'd be acting. They would be acting to change these laws. They would be calling for not investigations. They would be calling for these police officers to be charged and to be prosecuted. So don't fall into that trap of believing that these Democrats all of a sudden care about us and they're all of a sudden concerned about what's happening to us and they're concerned about us being slaughtered in the street and all of this. This ain't nothing new. So just don't fall for the trick bags. And Tariq had a word of warning too. Don't fall for so much of all of this diversity in all of these protests, because a lot of times they will send in non-foundational black people. They will send them in as agents. You understand what I'm saying? To spy, to start all kinds of stuff. You understand what I'm saying? To get black people hemmed up, to get black people arrested and get them charged and all of this kind of stuff. So you have to be careful when you have too many non-foundational black Americans that want to be a part of something like this, that want to protest with us and want to act like they standing with us and want to act like they supporting us. Now, not all of them, but you still have to be careful. And we cannot fall for the okie doke. This is not a time for us to be gullible. This is not a time for us to be all into our emotions and all of this kumbaya stuff. And this is not a time for us to let our guard down. We have to be aware and we have to pay attention. There's a story that Tariq has on, I think it's his Twitter, his Twitter or his Instagram of this white woman that was pretending that she was in a wheelchair and she had a knife and she was going around attempting to stab black folks with this knife. And there's other video out of her getting up and down out of this wheelchair walking around. Well, at some point, somebody caught her up in what she was doing. And let's just say karma did its work. So that's the reason why you have to be careful. And you can't let your guard down. You can't get so wrapped up in protesting and in what you're doing that you don't watch your back and you don't watch each other's backs. Because not only were they seeing non-foundational black Americans in, but they're seeing black folks in. They're seeing black folks in to be a distraction. They're seeing black folks in to turn this thing into a clown show. Like these folks that's out there cooking and out there dancing and singing and all of this kind of stuff. So for all of you people who want to be a part of the protest or have been a part of the protest, or you know somebody that's a part of the protest, or you planning on being a part of the protest or whatever, just make sure that you let other people know that this is the time where you have to be careful. You cannot let your guard down. And you cannot trust everybody that's carrying a sign that says no justice, no peace, or everybody that's saying justice for George or Black Lives Matter or whatever. You can't trust everybody that's carrying that sign, whether they're black or non-black. Okay? So before I leave you, like I said, remember all of this stuff will be linked in the description box. So get in that description box. But before I leave you, I want you to hear this. And I'll just say this. Y'all have a good day.
Look how many fucking people